This is Ted Leslie with Let Out the Clutch. I'm very happy to have someone today join me that's named Cody Gayer and then also my friend Rob Lackey. Um, this is going to be a fun show because I want to tell a story first. But Cody, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So I met him a few years back. I don't even know how we met. I know we went to have a meal at Charleston's in Bricktown.
Gene Thomas, I believe, introduced us, perhaps.
Possibly.
Or was it Todd Riddles?
I don't know either one of those names off the top of my head, but it could have been. I thought it was Rob,
You blame me.
but
I didn't know you at that.
that's what he said.
So you guys predated me.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how we found each other, but he's an attorney down in Norman doing something very similar to me. You've got to practice. So tell our viewers what you do.
Yeah, so I have a vast majority of what I do is medical malpractice, but I also handle some personal injury cases. Like you, Ted, I tend to specialize in motorcycle cases because I've been riding motorcycles the vast majority of my life, arguably at a fairly efficient and high level. And so when it comes down to understanding what a bike does, especially in times of emergent action, I tend to understand how that works a little better than most. And so I've had some success with that, and I enjoy doing that. Motorcycle guys and girls, we're all kind of a similar ilk. Tend to get along with those clients a whole lot better than you do some other types of people. And it's always easier to talk to somebody in that situation who's been in that situation before.
So the funny thing is that he reached out to me by messenger or something a few weeks back. I think you watched one of my podcasts. I think it was with Nicole, was it not?
It was, yeah.
In that video, go back and watch it. We talked to my friend Nicole, who talks about track days, and I commented I had never done one except on a road glide one time, which really doesn't count. But he reaches out and says, Ted, I've got some time left or time available at a track down in Texas. Why don't you come use my time? And I communicate back, and somewhere in the process, he even offers to let me ride his motorcycle on the track. And if the gear fits, I can wear his gear. Well, I don't loan my bike to anybody, but that was a very generous offer. I'm not sure I'm going to take him up on it, but I said, why don't you come on the show? And we talked for a little bit, and he goes, well, we're competitors. I'm like, you know what? That makes it better. And I like having other people in the room that understand motorcycles. And if someone isn't a fit for my firm, why not have someone else be able to take care of them that actually has a clue what they're talking about? And I want to talk about your motorcycle riding. We talked about your practice a little bit, but
Sure.
your riding is totally different from mine because I am a street guy. Tell our viewers what you do.
All I do is track riding. So
What do you mean all? That's all you do.
that's all I do. I don't ride on the street. I haven't ridden on the street since law school.
So what year was that?
From '07 to 2010. I had a Ducati 749 that I would use to get from the house to school and back as an economical way to get to and fro. But before then, I quit riding on the street for a while. And so I started riding on the track when I was 14. Did my first asphalt track day.
How'd you fall into that? Was your dad in the world of motorcycle riding?
Grandfather was.
Grandfather, okay.
Yeah. I grew up, I didn't know my dad. I met him for the first time when I think I was 27. So we don't have much of a relationship. But my grandfather did flat track, dirt track stuff.
Cool.
And had kind of he race oriented to some degree. He was also a rodeo guy. And so,
That's a combination right there now.
yeah. And I wasn't so great on a horse. He had a lot of different activities, and I'll say I could have cured cancer and done a lot of wonderful things, but there'll be a little bit of disappointment in him because I'm not a great fisherman. So he got me into it, and then I had a friend who got into road racing about that time and went along with him and tried it and really liked it.
And you said, what age again? 14?
14 was my first dip into it.
What track was that? Tally?
Hallett.
Oh, Howard.
Yeah, Hallett. So my first probably 30 times on track were probably Hallett.
A good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for smaller bikes too.
Absolutely.
Reasonably safe place, and it only being 90 minutes. I went to undergrad at Oklahoma State, and so it's only 20 minutes down the road from Oklahoma State, so it's perfect. So that was my introduction into it. Now I tried at 14, and then I kind of got away from it. School athletics and things like that. Didn't have a lot of time for it. But then I had a really good buddy who I rode crotch rockets with around town in Weatherford, Oklahoma. He was getting into racing, and then I just kind of followed in. And so he's come in and out of it over the last 30 years, but I've been pretty set on it, and that's what I've been doing with my free time. The only break I've had was the 3 years of law school. But I've been track riding since I'd say I was 17, 18, pretty much all the time.
You didn't even own a street bike, do you?
No, I don't own a street legal motorcycle, but I have 6 either 1,000 or 600cc sport bikes.
Let's go through this. What's your favorite track bike?
Yamaha,
Okay.
easily.
And since I don't know anything about, I know what that is from
Yeah.
a street bike. Why is that a good choice for a track bike?
So for a lot of people, it's a good choice. It's fast for the newer guys. It's probably a lot of power for a lot of people, but the electronics are so sophisticated on it. You've got traction control, slide control, wheelie control. All these things are automated things that are on the motorcycle that keep it from getting away from you. And so when you learn to kind of control that power to some degree, it'll let you step over the line without the bike actually going over the line too. So say you're getting out of a corner and you're really getting on the throttle and the wheel starts to spin. Well, it'll spin and slide a little bit, but it never gets out of control. It keeps you from, like I said, stepping over the line and really hurting yourself. Whereas 10 years ago, those systems were only on prototype bikes and were hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now they come stock in pretty much every racing style motorcycle you buy.
So kind of at the end and go backwards. What is your gear today? When you go to the track, what do you take with you? You have the bike?
Yeah. So obviously the bike, if I have new tires or usable tires, I don't need to bring a spare set of wheels and tires, but tires are a big deal. I usually try to mount those tires before I go so I'm not changing things out in the middle of the.
We're attorneys. Did you put them on yourself, or are you your own mechanic, or do you have someone helping you with this process? How does that work?
So to a degree, I won't take an engine apart, but I can pretty much figure out what's going on. So all my maintenance and stuff I do, except for the forks. Forks are suspension. There's an art to it and it's less science. And so I don't venture into that art world because I can't draw a stick figure when it comes to that kind of stuff.
So we got the bike, tires. What else?
Suspension needs to be workable. And so I go over every external bolt to make sure they're tight. I usually have my bikes safety wired. And that requires a hole drilled in all the bolts so that you can put safety wire like they do in aircraft. The safety wire keeps the bolts from rattling out. And it also, if they were to happen to rattle out, keeps them on the bike so you know what you've lost. That's a pretty important thing whenever you're going 140 miles an hour down a back straightaway and you don't want your caliper to fall off the fork. So I go through the bolts and things before I load the bike in the truck or the trailer. I change my oil about once every 4 or 5 track days. And then, so the bike usually is all one piece, and that's once I've gone through the bolts. And I look at my personal gear. Helmet with a clean visor. Usually, hopefully it's not still wet from the last track day because I sweat a lot. So I have 2 helmets. And I usually bring both of them because I will sweat through one of them. My suit, I'm glad to say that all my suits are Bison suits.
I am also glad. Thank you.
Yeah. The attention to detail on the Bison gear is phenomenal. And it's an extra kicker that they all are designed by my wife for me. So all the design was done by my wife, who's a graphic designer. And she's got me geared up in a great design with my firm logo and all that stuff. So it's tax deductible.
Exactly.
And so I have a chest protector underneath that and a back protector that's actually built into the suit. Those 2 parts are pretty important because, your spinal cord, that's precious territory back there. You want something to help you brace that. Fortunately, it's been a long time since I've had to use one, but I'm glad to know that they're there. And then boots and gloves. I'm also a proud recipient of one of the first sets of Bison boots, and they are phenomenal. I've done, I think, 15 track days in those boots, and they still look brand new.
Yeah, Dwayne Davis was very upset that he did not know or have these boots. He sent me a picture, and he's like, "Why do I not know about these?"
Yeah.
We're busted.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I gotta get Dwayne some boots now.
I will say, having something that Dwayne didn't made me feel pretty special.
So how did you learn about Rob and Bison?
A mutual friend, I think,
Yeah.
and
He was Ryan Kilburn, maybe.
yeah, it was Ryan Kilburn
He used to ride he was your attack back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. And I remember coming to your old house and stripping down my underwear and getting measured.
It's like, nice to meet you.
It's like my wife's downstairs, just so you know.
Yeah.
No, it was I get my first custom suit, and it was so much better than buying something off the rack that fits somebody else because I'm a bigger guy up top. And if I buy something that fits my arms and shoulders, it never fits anything else. Mm-hmm. And on a road race track, you can feel that. So if you're going down the back straightaway at someplace big, like Circuit of the Americas has a long back straightaway, you know, 1,000cc, you're getting up to 160, 170 miles an hour. You can feel that extra leather up. It's just flapping on your back. So to have something that's tight and fits really well, it just makes everything feel much better.
I have been on that track for a MotoGP.
Yeah.
Several years ago. I look at my phone to find the date. For Ducati Island, we got to take a ride on the track, and we did 3 laps. I was on my Ducati Diavel. I totally forgot. I said I've never been on a track before, other than my road glide. I did Circuit of the Americas, 3 laps, back 3 or 4 years ago with a Ducati group. That was pretty fun, but I was on a Diavel. That wasn't exactly.
Things are still.
That's a pretty capable bike.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to this track day. So you have the gear from Rob.
Right.
Do you take people there to help you with your maintenance and that kind of stuff, or how does that work?
I don't. So once you kind of get the hang of what you're doing, so most of the track bikes don't have kickstands, and that surprises a lot of people. Well, how do you get off of it? You have to carry stands with you. And you need those stands to prop the bike off the ground because you're usually using tire warmers to get the tires hot before you get on the track. Now, I'll get into that in a minute, but when you get off the bike, it looks awkward because you're balancing the bike, you're probably kind of tired, you're catching your breath, and you're backing it up to get the stand on the forks, or I'm sorry, on the swing arm. And so it's a balancing act that takes a little bit of practice before you don't look like you're juggling pigeons trying to do it. But I do have a bike that still has a kickstand that I use to coach on sometimes, and that's helpful. But for the most part, you take kickstands off because it's one less piece to fall off, and those things are skinny and sharp. And if it falls off at 170, it's probably going through somebody's chest. That's the thought. So you take them off or you safety wire them. But yeah, I don't take anybody with me. Doing this for as long as I have, I know that if I go to some place like Colorado and I drive by myself, I better not have a problem. I better not crash. While racetracks are awesome places to meet some fantastic people, and I know pretty much it's been a long time since I've gone to a track day. It doesn't matter where it is, and I haven't seen a familiar face, meaning that somebody there that I can probably call on if I broke my collarbone to load my stuff up in a trailer for me if I had to.
And I find that to be true in the motorcycle world in general, and not to divert the story, but when I was hit by a car in Sturgis, my group had already veered off to go down a different direction to ride needles and different direction than I was, and I was going into Deadwood by myself. And when I was hit, I mean, the people came out of the woodwork to help. So that's kind of the motorcycle community, is that if you have an issue, they're going to help you. And my bike took out 2 bikes going the other direction, and those guys became new friends to me because they were hurt as well, but they went and got a trailer and then helped me get my bike on because my guys are gone.
Yeah.
You know, I don't hear from them till that night for dinner.
Oh, wow.
You know, so I imagine it's kind of like that in the track world too, is that you're part of a community that supports each other, you know? And these strangers said, "Do you care if we take your bike back to our hotel?" I'm like, "It's trash. Take it wherever you want to." You know,
Party.
we'll exchange numbers, and we got them back that night.
Wow.
Me and my friends went to get it.
Yeah.
But so I assume the track's kind of like that as far as a community. If you're hurt, someone's going to help you with all your stuff.
Yeah.
Even if people don't like you, they're going to.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time since I've been to a track, and I've looked around and not seen a lot of familiar faces. So, but that's on my mind. If nobody's coming with me, I know that I need to be safe. And that's also a big part of Rob's deal too, is, you know, I trust his gear though as well. And the airbag suits that they now implement, when you fall off, they detect the fall.
Do you have one?
I don't.
So we're talking about me getting one just for riding on the street. So what's your thoughts on that?
It is a technology that I have yet to adopt, but I'm literally, I hate telling him I'm ordering a suit because he's going to give me a discount, and I hate it.
You're plugging him on a show right now.
I know,
You know?
I know, but the last time I ordered a suit, I got a refund, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Come on, guys, I really appreciate it, but you guys do great jobs." But my next suit, which is in the works, will have the airbag system. Good. I haven't done it yet because I'm a bigger guy. I'm a really sweaty guy, and some of that airbag does prevent airflow when you're on the track.
Okay.
Especially when you're running in Texas in July and August, and it's 105 degrees outside. I have chosen to opt for comfort over safety in those
But not in that area, not the suit, right? But just in the airbag technology.
Exactly.
I can relate to that. It's a tough one. Now that Helite vest that I was telling you about that we integrate in our suit, which you should get,
Yeah.
that allows for more airflow. It's lighter and it floats, for lack of a better term, between the leather and the inner liner, and so the air can flow around it. A lot of these other vests that you zip up and then you put the suit on, you're basically wearing a jacket under your suit or jacket. It's a whole other layer. So this Helite vest, because it's a bladder that just attaches to the suit, gets you more airflow and it's nicer. I crashed at Hallett. My last crash, the bike false neutral going into a corner, locked the rear, and it turned and pitched me, and I landed on my stomach. And I didn't have an air vest on because it was an endurance race, and I'm like, I'm not going to spend 4 hours in this suit with an air vest on. It's not happening. And then as soon as I hit the ground, I said, I thought for sure I broke ribs. I didn't, but it would have been a lot more comfortable. So I understand that. Yeah.
So we're back to the gear again. I don't want to go too far. That you have his gear, you have the bike, the stands, the tire warmers.
Right.
I assume you have fuel, extra fuel, that kind of stuff, a toolbox, toolkit, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So fortunately, where I go most of the time is Eagles Canyon. It's just east of Decatur, Texas.
This is the place you offered to me to use.
Correct.
Which you're going to go to, and then I'm going to go to.
So I did not commit to that at all.
I didn't commit. We're committing you.
We're committed to it, not by that.
I think at this point you're probably going to have to come.
No, I don't. I'm
So
not sure.
I'm a member out there, and I have a garage space, and so
Tell me what this is again.
Eagles Canyon is about 15 minutes east of Decatur, Texas, and so it's about an hour north of Dallas.
Amazing trip.
It is. I feel extremely fortunate to have such a wonderful facility that is pristine, only 2 hours from my house. Before this place, it was a minimum 4 hours to go to a decent racetrack, except for Hallett. Hallett, living in Norman, Hallett's about a 90-minute drive, and then any place else is 4 hours minimum. And I'm usually going to Colorado, to High Plains, which is a 9-hour drive, or Barber, which is another 9 or 10 hour, or Circuit of the Americas is 6. So to have this place 2 hours away is phenomenal. But I have a garage space out there, and I keep my tools out there. But if I'm going someplace, toolbox, your metric tools, set of Allen wrenches. And if you have your wheels or your tires in good condition, you're not going to need to remove those. So that eliminates a lot of tools you have to bring. And I would, if you're new to track days, I would absolutely go through your bike beforehand, because the last thing you want to do is be thinking about your riding and then stop because you have to wrench on your bike for 20 minutes. Coming to a track day is you should be there to enjoy yourself and ride. And if you're spending your time working on your bike, you've made some mistakes. And you're going to make mistakes when you're on track. That's just, I've seen it happen too many times. So I do bring a toolbox for emergencies, but it's very minimal. And if I'm out there working on something, I'm usually done for the day, unless I'm just something real small, tied in a bolt here or there.
So the track's a few hours away in Texas. You've got a garage there. You rent. You leave a bike there too?
Actually, I leave 2 bikes there, just in case you ever want to come.
I'll come watch you someday.
Yeah.
I have a Ninja 250 that would be perfect. Yeah, seriously, I'm not even kidding. It'd be like riding a bicycle.
I'm not a 61-year-old fat ass on a 250. That might be something to videotape and post for me just to make fun of me.
Let's do it.
No,
but
I promise you won't be the slowest person out there.
Nope.
So you go down there, and what's your day like when you go down there?
So we show up pretty early. So I would say during summer hours, they run a full hour of cars in the morning, which is great because it rubbers in the track first thing in the morning. So from 8 to 9, it's just cars. And so usually get there around 8, get the tire warmers on, make sure the bike has fuel. And then I just kind of mosey around the paddock, see who I'm riding with today. You make a lot of friends out there, and you expect to see some of these folks. And sometimes you only get to see them once a month, maybe even less. And so I mosey around, see who's riding. And then 10 minutes before the session starts, make sure I've had plenty of coffee, and put my suit and my boots and my gloves on and start the bike, get it warm, and then they'll call for riders. At that point, you check your tire temperatures and pressures. That's a very important piece of all this, is knowing what tires you have and what is the correct pressure setting when they're hot. And the difference, literally, I think the difference for even one of our buddies, Mr. Zortman, between a front end crash and him being successful all day long was 2 pounds in his front tire. That was the difference.
That's amazing, because I'm a street rider. we don't think about those things as much as we should.
Right.
War story time. Back in the day, my first Harley, I lived in a neighborhood called Lansbrook. He's passed away now, but I had a friend named Bob Truitt, called him Harley Bob. And whenever we'd go to ride, he'd have his garage rope and the compressor going and go, Ted, we're checking your air tires, your air in your tires. So no, you didn't.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't let you leave the garage or ride with him without checking the pressures. But I'm not sure we didn't check temperatures on street bikes back then.
Yeah.
It was a Harley, and we certainly didn't do it within 2 pounds. So do you have precise gear, or is there something that lets you know this kind of thing?
So I have a digital pressure gauge, but I also have that calibrated every 3 or 4 months. Your tire pressures are of, especially as you get quicker and quicker, it's of such an importance that I don't know about you, Rob, but I can feel if I'm 2 psi over or under, I can feel it. I can feel it coming through the forks or coming through. I can feel something's not right if
I
I'm
can't even
counting.
contemplate that. That's interesting to me.
And it's not. It's something that just evolves out of me, because you'll come through a corner and you're like, why is the front end giving me this really vague feeling? It's not feeling as precise as it usually does. And so, well, because you've got 1/2 pound too much pressure in, or I need to ride it a little bit harder and let it get a little bit warmer, because as you ride harder, the tires are going to heat up, and that heat builds more psi, but that heat also builds more grip. So you're when it comes to, especially as you get quicker and quicker, when it comes to the right psi and how you air your tires up before you get on track, you're aiming at a target that's moving, because as you get faster, your tires get warmer and it carries more psi. So you want to pull it down before you get on track, so that whenever you're up to temperature on track, it's at that right level.
You think about it, the tire technology now, that especially with the race tires, they act as another piece of the suspension. So the sidewall of the tire, the carcass of the tire, and actually brand to brand, Dunlops and Pirellis are polar opposite ends of the spectrum. And you'll see a world-class rider come from Europe to race Moto America, and they were on Pirellis, and they come to Dunlops, and they're middle of the pack. And you're like, what is going on with this guy? And then you find out, oh, it's the tires.
Yep.
He doesn't know how to ride the Dunlops. And as the pressure changes, to Cody's point, then the PSI goes up, then it stiffens. The tire stiffens, and you go into a corner, trail braking, loading that tire up, trying to expand the contact patch and get more grip. When you go in there and it's 2 pounds higher, all of a sudden it's chattering, it's wanting to tuck down on you, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
So tire pressure is very important, and that it translates to the street. And if you looked at the owner's manual of your Diavel, I guarantee you it says before riding, every time check your tire pressures. And there's maybe 1 in 20 people that do it.
Yeah, I haven't ridden on the street in so long, but when I did, I never checked my size of my tires ever, unless one of them looked flat.
Right, exactly.
And to his point about the Dunlops and the Pirellis, I bought a bike recently that had a set of Dunlops on it, and I was like, well, I'll just ride these, for the day, and then I'll switch over to
Yeah, it's tough.
That front Dunlop is so stiff. It felt like I was riding on a boulder, and then you hand the bike off to somebody like Dustin, and he's like, this feels great to me.
Right.
And it just always felt like it was going to tuck on me. Mm-hmm. But that's the difference. And it'll grip. It just grips a little different. And it's like writing in cursive or writing in print. You're passing on the same information, just in a different way.
And the writing styles, it translates, writing style wise. I won a championship one year on an SV650 on Bridgestones. I switched to Dunlops the next year, because I thought I was going to go try Moto America. So I'm like, well, I better switch to their spec tire, and I can do anything. Same bike, same riders I was on grid with. And they're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I can't figure these tires out. Your bike's totally different, even an SV.
And it requires you to set up your suspension completely different.
Yes.
Yeah, to compensate for the feel that you're getting. But again, coming to your first 10 track days, none of that's really in your purview. What you're doing is making sure you're within a range of your tire pressures, and you're going out and just trying to feel and learn and enjoy yourself.
So, dumb question: a track day, there's a start and a stop time. Do you just ride when you want to and get off and take a break, or is it a long window of time, or is it, I don't know how it works?
Sure, yeah. So first time I ever rode motocross track, I was shocked. It's just open, and you get on whenever you want. You get off wherever you want, and there's not an exit lane or a start lane. Road racing on a track day is a far more organized event.
Racing versus a track day.
Yeah, track day.
Okay.
At a road course.
A road course.
Yeah, not a motocross or dirt track. And so if you're at a dedicated motorcycle track day that is just motorcycles all day long, you usually have 3 or 4 groups. And they don't put the fastest guys with the slowest folks.
That would be dangerous, I would think.
Yeah. And I will tell you, and you don't understand how fast you're catching the person in front of you that might be 400 yards down the road, and you're on the brakes and you are sucking into them so fast. It scares us. It scares to have somebody that's just kind of tiptoeing around the racetrack when you're coming up to him so fast. That's why you'll have a beginner, medium, and expert level 3 sessions. Every hour, you're on the track for 20 minutes every hour. So you're 20 minutes on and 40 minutes off.
And my only analogy of that being a street rider is I had a 2004 K1200 GT coming back from Tulsa on the turnpike. I may not have been going fast. Just cruising, and the bike loved speed. It didn't care. And I was by myself, and I had it rolling way faster than I probably should. And I was in the left-hand lane, and a car in front of me was miles ahead of me, long straight. And I saw them move into the left-hand lane, and they didn't see me at all. I didn't comprehend how fast I was overtaking the car that was passing someone, and they were speeding. I was doing twice their speed, and I had no comprehension that I was about to hit them until I was about to hit them. And I basically almost had to lock that bike down on the turnpike because I couldn't contemplate or comprehend the overtake I had on that car. It scared the crap out of me. And it wasn't the bike going fast. I was comfortable with the bike going fast, but I couldn't get it stopped.
Yes.
So that may be what you're talking about, a little bit on the track.
Absolutely. I remember a lot of those close calls that I've had, and one in particular, I was in Colorado, and there was a girl out there for her second track day on a Ninja 250, it might have been a 350 something. And I am just in my own world. There's maybe 5 people on the racetrack, and it's a pretty big track, and I'm in my own world running my lap times, and I see them way down the road. And I'm the type of rider that I want to give somebody a lot of cushion, especially somebody I haven't ridden with before. And by no means do I ever have any intent. I love this sport. I want more people in this sport. I don't want to scare people away from this sport, but I probably did that day because I passed her so close that I had to tuck my arm in, and I was easily 90 miles an hour faster than she was.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where we were both going into a corner, and I planned on being on the opposite side of the track of her by the time I got to her. But I got to her so fast, I was right on her. And I just didn't realize. So that's a situation that completely avoidable. And it's 100% my fault.
Well, you mentioned, I interrupted your story, but you ride in groups, I guess, by skill level.
Right. And for the most part, you get to put yourself in your own skill level. And so, some humility needs to come with you at the racetrack. It doesn't matter what skill level you are. I know I belong in the faster group, and I'm not the fastest of the fastest group, but that's where I'm going to be more comfortable, and people are going to be more comfortable around me. I'm going to be faster than some of them, and I'm not going to be as fast as some of the others. And there might be people in the medium group who fully deserve to be in that faster group, but they're just not comfortable there yet. And so you pretty much group yourself into those groups. Now, there's some organizations that require you to pass an instructor test, or they'll promote you to the fastest group. But by and large, at least the ones that I've been to lately, you kind of group yourself.
Self-policing.
Yeah.
And it goes both directions. Let's see your point. I rode at Road America for the first time on a loaner bike, S1000RR. A buddy, mutual friend Quentin loaned me this bike. And so I was like, well, I've never ridden here, so I'm going to go out in intermediate. And it was like 5, 6, 7, probably turn 8 where you're coming down towards the carousel, hard left. And I came in on somebody, doing an endo almost into their tail section. And then towards the end of the session, I passed somebody around the outside, and I'm like, guy's got plenty of room. I come into the pits, and the guy comes ripping up behind me. He's like, what are you doing passing me that close and everything? I'm like, I didn't think I was that close. Okay, I should move up. And so sometimes you go out there and you cause chaos in a slower group, not even realizing it.
Completely unintentional. Yeah. And the first thing I did as soon as I got off the bike, when I passed that girl, is I went directly to her and I said, I am so sorry, and tried to explain what happened. And she was fine with it. I don't think her boyfriend was pretty upset, but I was like, I wasn't trying to prove a point or anything. I sincerely apologize. And like I said,
That's the right way to do it.
you got to bring some humility to the track.
So the track days in Texas, when you go there, you have a window of time to ride
So yeah,
based on your skill level and your group.
So Eagles Canyon is a little bit different because it is a private racetrack. Every members day, it's half cars, half bikes. And so you're on the track for 30 minutes, every hour for 30 minutes, but it's all bikes for 30 minutes. So it doesn't matter what skill level you're at, you all put in a group, but it's a pretty big track.
Yeah.
And another big part of it is the spacing is pretty wide open. Mm-hmm. And so you can see all like way up in front of you, no matter where you are. So coming up on somebody, if you're having a situation like that, it is entirely preventable with just a little bit of caution. I've been riding up there for years, and I have never come up on somebody unexpected like that. It's just because you can see around, nothing's blind. You're not coming up over a hill.
Like High Plains, where you said you almost hit that girl.
Right.
There's a lot of blind
They're
stuff.
also probably all members there as well, so
Yeah.
they all know the track, I would think.
Not 100%. So they run a school out there quite often too. Sport Rider Coaching runs a school, and so there are oftentimes some slower riders out there that might be literally a minute per lap slower than what we might be running. But again, because there's nothing blind, like you said, High Plains, there's a lot of blind corners where you got to know where you're going before you get there, and you can't see around. So when I approached that girl, it was a blind section, and I saw her, had 2 seconds, and thought, okay, we'll be far enough. I have 7, 8, 9 seconds to see what's coming up at me, and
You can start to pace it.
yeah, and you start to plan your way around them so that it's a very easy, I'm up on the inside of them, they can see me, we turn in, they're behind me, and I'm gone, and then they can do their thing.
What's your favorite track? Is it that one
Oh, in the world?
that you've ridden?
Oh,
That you've ridden, not like me wanting to go to MotoGP and see Italy. What's your favorite track you've ridden on?
Brands Hatch, United Kingdom.
Very impressive.
I'm planning on going to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium in July.
So how does that work? You buy a ticket and go over there and have a bike that you rent for the day or something like that?
Yep. They call them hire bikes because they're weird. But a track day organization, they have 3 consecutive days together at this racetrack. And so I will purchase a ticket to attend all 3 days. And then they bring bikes on reservation. I'll reserve a bike for myself. And they take care of the tires, the fuel, and all that stuff. It's expensive, but it's also a bucket list thing. And Spa is such a big, wide open track. They just started letting bikes back on it, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. I've always wanted to ride there. And now that it's open, it's an opportunity.
Is it happening soon?
In July.
Very nice. Is it a family trip? What are you going to do?
Oh, my family does not come back.
That's so crazy.
You know, so there. You see a lot of families at the racetrack. It's a very family-friendly place to be.
Definitely.
And can be. But my wife and daughter they get bored, and I don't want to inflict that on them. So I've been married almost 18 years. That my wife has seen me ride a motorcycle maybe 4 times. My daughter will come out sometimes because she gets to drive a golf cart around Eagles Canyon.
But the trip overseas, you did it by yourself?
Yeah.
We haven't talked much about this. When you go on an international trip, do you plan it all out yourself then? You just go to the track day?
Yeah.
It's all just track?
Well, so no. I mean, I will. So I haven't thought about this. I have some friends that are over there. I might go over to England, and so I went to law school at Oxford for a semester, and so I have some experience, and I've gotten to know some people over there. So it won't just be fly over 3 days of track and come home.
But you're planning it all yourself.
Yes.
It's not through it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So there's a couple of different organizations. One in particular, Leod Escapes. So Leod, it's Leod Escapes, Leod Motorcycle Escapes, and he's on Facebook and stuff. But Cat McLeod is the one who runs that. He's out of California. But you can fly out there. Say you wanted to do Spa, you fly out. And he'll have maybe 10 people at once, and you rent bikes and you ride all around there, and then you go to the racetrack, and then you have a track bike waiting for you. You ride the track, and then you get back on the bikes and tour the countryside again. And again, not inexpensive, but a bucket list thing, and everybody I know that's went is blown away.
And I've joked with my wife, and I mentioned this to you before we went on the air, that my bucket list, if I ever had the money to do it, would be to retire and just go to MotoGP races.
Yeah.
And just travel from Qatar to wherever and see all the tracks. But I want to go to Ducati Week in Italy.
I'm going to get you Cat's info.
The problem is my wife is definitely going to go with me, and she's not going to tolerate me sleeping and drinking motorcycles for a week, which I'm not going to want to do anything else.
Yeah.
I'm not going to care about the Amalfi Coast or going anywhere else. I'm going to want to be in the Ducati world, wearing red, riding. I want a multi-strada like I have here.
Yeah.
And just tour the countryside on a multi-strada. I don't think that's going to go over as a family trip very well.
But if you're in Italy, so Tasha and I went and we did Thailand moto tours in January this year, which is another awesome.
I've heard wonderful things.
And that's you got to do that. It's not super expensive, honestly, and it's a great program. So we got this trip through KYT Helmets, who we partnered with. They're like, hey, you guys sold a bunch of helmets. You want to go to Thailand? And so of course we had to pay for some things, but for the most part, they covered us. Anyway, we're like, oh man, because Tasha's she doesn't like being on a bike. And she's two up with me for an entire week on this CB500. And we're like, oh, we had some apprehension. And then finally, she's like, you know what? I think I can deal with it. We've never been out of the country, really. Let's do it. And she was fine because we were in the countryside. We're in Thailand. We had to stop, eat all this great food. We got to pet elephants, and she's just looking around all these temples and forests. And so when you're on a motorcycle somewhere cool like that, maybe you should be like Tasha and deal with it.
We met in 1987 with me riding a motorcycle. So this is not a new thing for me.
Yeah.
Maybe 86, but we met, I was riding a motorcycle. So this is not a midlife crisis. She had full disclosure. She knew I was riding a motorcycle. It was a Honda V45 Sabre 1982 motorcycle. And I still have the paperwork for I bought it. It's the coolest thing. But so she's not accepted. It was just full disclosure. Ted rides motorcycles. Mm-hmm. He's not going to, I had him BL and Elia before Lydia and long after Lydia. I'm sorry. I'm just going to always have motorcycles. And she's ridden with me to it many a time. I bought her a Can-Am Spider. It's in the garage out there. And she's ridden that at Sturgis with me and done a few things. So she's not opposed to riding them. And we now have grandkids. So we've gotten through all that. Worry about having minor children in the house. But I'll have to talk. That'll be some sweet talking to get her in the back again. Because she liked riding her own. But she didn't ride a two-wheel. She rides a three-wheel.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can pull that off.
Hello, man. Having been to Italy this year for the first time, I think, Italy's amazing.
And
get her out.
Transportation over there is so cheap. She can ride with you for 2 days
and go do something else.
No, you're going to be, a Borgo Panigale if you're going to the Ducati factory in 3 days. Drop her in Milan, and she can take a quick, hop a ride over there. It's pretty easy to get around when you're over there.
We'll try that. She's pretty independent, so I'll give that a try.
Yeah.
My travel agent back there is looking at me going, hey, yeah, we can make that work.
Yeah. You were asking, Brands Hatch is an amazing track. That's my favorite one I've ever ridden on. Spa will probably replace that this year. As far as the United States is concerned, Eagles Canyon we're so fortunate. It is a great facility because it's not just, the track layout, 2.7 miles, and it throws a little bit of everything at you. If you can go fast there, you can go fast anywhere in the world. It's sufficiently technical. It has some ups, some downs, some elevation change. Mm-hmm. But the surface, my favorite track before I became a member out here was High Plains in just east of Denver. And that's a great track with a lot of elevation change and a lot of blind corners. But the surface I thought was phenomenal. But I've been riding at Eagles Canyon for 2.5 years, and I go back to High Plains, and this surface is awful. It really does spoil you because a lot of tracks, if you get offline, you're venturing out into no man's land, and you don't know what you're going to find out there. But the entire width of the racetrack, the entire 2.7 miles is pristine asphalt that you're not going to lose grip. You're not going to hit a weird bump. You're not going to get into some weird concrete filler that got slippery overnight. None of that.
Or a pothole like at MSR Houston.
Right. I've ran into one of those at Hallett before where they had to, they didn't cancel the track day. They just stuck a cone out there.
I did that one weekend at MSR Houston on a CMRA race weekend during the writers' meeting. I said, listen, a car caught fire last weekend and it burned a big hole in the track. So coming out of the keyhole, there's a cone. Just don't go through that. It's a huge patch. Anyway.
Wow.
The surface, yes. I rode at Eagles Canyon for the first time in August. I did a CMRA endurance race there on an R3, and I'd never been out there. But everybody said great things, but I've been to the track but never ridden it. And so anyway, I went out there and I was just like, oh, man, I see. Everybody's spoiled. It's great.
It does spoil you. And a lot of people haven't been out there yet because it's difficult. You have to be invited by a member, or the CMRA race weekend you're going to race there. And they had, just last year, they let their first track day organization do a weekend out there. So a lot of people haven't been out there to experience how great it actually is.
Now,
It is hidden gem.
Rob's talked about racing. Do you race at all too?
I used to race quite a bit. In fact, I used to race quite a bit, and I still might do a little bit more. I don't think I'm done with that necessarily.
The track days, do you just race against yourself, basically against the clock, or what do you do?
Yeah. So you don't have to. I rarely run a lap timer anymore. I'm out there just to have fun. There's nothing that I do in my life that takes 100% of my consciousness, except for riding motorcycles. Well, and meditation. But the riding motorcycles thing, Ted, you're probably like this too. You're always here in the office unless you're 100% somewhere.
Yeah, and I've got an audio system with my helmet and all that kind of stuff, but most of the time that's just off. And it's just me and the bike. And actually, I like trips alone, which my wife doesn't understand that at all either.
Yeah.
But I like just getting lost and not knowing where I'm going to go, just going for a ride. Usually it's in Arkansas. It's nothing extravagant, but you can go over there for a nice weekend and ride.
100%.
And my joke is if I want a burger for lunch, I have a burger for lunch. If I want one for dinner, I have one for dinner.
Okay.
And if I want to have a 30-minute lunch or if I want an hour lunch, I just do what I want to do. And I like the peace and quiet to be on the bike by myself and not having communications. And I can kind of put the firm behind me, the billables and the client deadlines and the overhead and trying to cover rent. And, we're always, you're a small practitioner as well. And it's always cash flow and trying to, there's a lot of pressures running a firm that I didn't understand when I came from the big firm, McKinney Stringer, 20 something years ago.
Right.
But the bike lets me have an escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just peaceful, and people don't understand unless you do it. And I can even go for a short ride. I mean, just a typical ride out Route 66 and pops in 177 north to Stillwater and back, and a few hours and just clear your head. It's therapeutic beyond understanding unless you ride.
And and that's exactly what the racetrack is. I have earplugs in, I don't have music playing, I don't communicate with anybody on the track, and it's just, I'm big giant game of connect the dots. Brake marker, turning marker, apex, acceleration point, turning marker. It's just, and you're just doing it over and over and over again. And but it's the only thing I do that takes 100% of my consciousness. Otherwise, I see a guitar over there. I'm an avid guitar player too, but that only takes 30 or 40% of my brain, and I'm still chewing on issues at work. And, I, like you, Ted, all of my clients, I take extremely seriously. And a lot of them are looking to me for relief from something that is paramount in their life. And you're doing everything you can to produce a result.
It is the one thing in their life they're focused on.
Yeah.
You may have 20 cases on your desk, but that's their one thing, and helping them through that issue is what you're focused on. And you're right, they are focused on that issue in their life, and it's very stressful for them, and you try to take that pressure off of them and put it on you.
Yep.
And take care of it for them.
Yeah. And so I joked about my grandfather and fishing. Well, that's why I'll never be a good fisherman, is because I can be on a boat and I'll cast the reel out in the water, and I'm going to sit there and I say, I should be at the office. I could go to the supermarket and grab this fish, but I should be back at the office. But if you take 5% of your brain and you start thinking about what's back at the office while you're on track, that's the first indication you need to get off track.
Yes.
That's it. And so, it is the only thing that I have in my life that requires 100% of me to be present in the moment at all times. And that pays dividends too, I find, in practice. Flying into a corner at 140 miles an hour, wondering if the brakes are gonna you're braking pretty deep, the bike's dancing around, you're trying to get the thing bent into a corner. That's a lot of pressure too. And in a very finite, it's a lot of pressure in a very finite moment. There's nothing you can throw at me in a courtroom that's going to have my heart rate anywhere near than I was in that moment. And you find after a while of doing this, nothing really bothers you anymore. Nothing really causes that fight or flight reaction that we have been built in us to survive, in hunter-gatherer societies, when a tiger would attack the village, that's when you're supposed to, have that adrenaline rush to run away. Well, we don't have that anymore, but we still suffered that same response when, we're on a deadline, or you're in the middle of a cross-examination of an expert. He says something you don't understand or you didn't expect. And so you have that little jolt of adrenaline and well, what do I do? That's gone. I'm always calm and collected. And I'm always in the moment, ready for whatever you throw at me, because in my free time, I try to make a motorcycle go faster than it wants to go over the racetrack. It really just breeds a sense of calmness. Nothing really bothers you after that.
Good point.
That is excellent. I like that a lot. Yes.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
I also find when I drive, like on the way over here, I don't speed.
Yes. I drive like a grandpa now.
I really do. And
Yeah.
people, that shocks people when they hear that. I have one of the nice things I bought for myself after I had a really significant case that I won at trial, and treated myself to something I always wanted. Was a nice Mercedes AMG GTR.
It was nice.
Nice car.
I love it. But the service manager at the Mercedes dealership chewed me a little bit because I was fouling the plugs because I wasn't driving hard enough.
Mm-hmm. Gotta blow the car.
It's kind of what he was like. He's like, man, you're coming in for these check engine lights, and it's just because you're getting a misfire every once in like 2 months, but you just need to drive a little harder.
So you don't drive fast on the street because you get it out on the track?
Yeah, I don't feel the need.
No point.
Mm-mm.
I didn't start riding motorcycles until I stopped playing hockey. I was like, 27. And I always wanted to ride motorcycles, but I also knew the way that I drove on the street in a car. I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself on a motorcycle, right? Started riding at 27. Then I started getting dumber and dumber. And then I crashed in Arkansas. And that's when I said I need to go to track. And it just, now when I get on the street, I did ride a bike on the street the other day, a friend's bike. And I was just going under the speed limit, just cruising along.
Maybe it's a lesson we learned. I've had some clients in the last year that were multiple violations and speeding, 120, 140 on the highways. And maybe we need to get them on the track.
Outlet.
Get them on the track instead of down the road.
100%. Seen the outlet.
I had a friend, we have a mutual friend who had a Ducati V4S, one of those brand new Panigale as it came out. He was trying to get it to his first service interval before he takes it to the racetrack. And so he calls me. He's like, hey, will you run the last 150 miles on this for me? Check this bike out. I just need to get it to 800 miles. I'm like, sure, that'd be fun. And so I went out, brought it back after 25 miles. Every oil slick, pothole, tree on the side of the road just was not fun at all for me. And I also these bikes are so powerful. You twist the throttle, even in first gear, for that long, you're already 20 miles an hour.
My Diablo's like that, and I've got a multi-strada V4S. Yeah. That's a beast as well.
It's a race bike, just tall.
It is. You flick a wrist and you're gone.
Yeah. And so those bikes were developed and made and engineered to go around a racetrack at the fastest possible rate. And I just don't enjoy it around the street at all. I don't even enjoy, I've ridden a cruiser a couple times and I'm just like, it just isn't for me.
That's awesome. Well, Cody, thank you for being here today.
That's been my pleasure, Ted.
Cody, what's your website?
It's cglaw.
And do you have a social media platform too or anything like that?
Yeah, CG Law. It's just my initials, Cody Gayer, cglaw.org. Social media is the same thing, CG Law.
And you do some other things, maybe you do biker law?
Yes.
MedMal, you said.
Right.
What else?
That's probably the most part. Do a little bit of defense work still, but that has mostly medical connotations to it. Medical malpractice and personal injury, motorcycle wrecks are my bread and butter. What I do most of the.
Rob, remind us of your websites and what you do.
Bisontrack.com. So motorcycle gear and apparel and helmets and anything you need to keep you safe on the bike.
Well, Cody, Rob, thank you for being here. Thank you for being on Let Out the Clutch by My Biker Attorney.
Thank you.